it's a warrant. Now, civil paper is different than a warrant.
Yeah, why not?
You going out after someone with a warrant, they might have a hot check warrant on it, and right now, they don't have a computer in your department, do they? So they can't check that person to see if there's any felonies till they get there and get them in hand, then they run a check over the radio.
And so that's something we need to correct, because I think they should have a laptop in their warrant.
So, for safety, and we do that, that's the standard policy, that if we know we're going after somebody with a warrant, we'll either run a second car out there with two-man units, or we'll run a double-man unit out there, so I have no problem with it going two. I've had worse times that are misdemeanor people than I have felony people sometimes.
So that's it, like even with Tyler Police Department, for instance, when they stop somebody in a warrant, they gotta send another car over there, so two people can do the rest.
And I agree at this point, after looking at the numbers early this year, I think we could justify secretaries for you. But we'd be right back in the same boat if we gave you another officer, because then that officer would be by himself. So that would mean y'all have to crisscross back and forth and back in. We might need to revisit this next year, the budget, maybe we could, if the numbers are, or if we can justify, I would think you need two, instead of one.
Well, I don't really see that because of it's for 3 quarters. But what happens a lot of times, we're stuck in court doing these step by checks. Like, I'm in court, he's by himself, so he either has to work in the office or.
That's what I was going to suggest. I know that when you're working a case and you have somebody that you bring in, or several people that you bring in, one of you needs to be in court with that person to assist in the processing of that case. So I can see during those times, if you had an additional person, they could be out with a backup officer serving additional warrants.
And we've tried to set the cases at the same time as the courts and for court work. Court just won't work. It's just hard to meet that the schedule. So there's a lot of time that is by ourselves. And when it's available, we have everything lined up to go do it. It's just really smooth. And you have that safety there. And that's
That's a lot.
So this program started out seven or 8 years ago, one officer, and then
yeah, well, it started with Fabio Martinez, and then he was there a year and that time to vote.
and then a couple of years later he brought on
Gary.
Gary Arnett. Okay.
I think the secretary's in order then, and then to talk to Harvey Tanner, because we're looking at some grants for additional laptops and vehicles. So talk to him about that so we can get you guys in line and process your paperwork and provide that extra layer of safety, I think, for the way to check people out for you.
And we want Constable Jackson to know we really do appreciate him buying his own laptops and everything to the county.
That's good. You got a spare one, Constable? No?
Thank you, Mark.
car.
So if there's a formal vote necessary, I would move that we show our support of the warrant division by adding that secretary to the budget.
And just give me a consensus if you like, and I'll just put it in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any objections? Okay.
Okay, another subject that we were talking about was 911, the dispatch function. The court last year voted to not take on the financial responsibility for dispatch for anyone other than Smith County and their constables. And I believe there's been some revisiting of that, even though there's been no action. What's in the budget at this time is reflective of the court's action last year. So if there's going to be some revisiting of the issue or some sharing of their financial responsibility with these other entities, now's the time to tell me.
I'll let y'all start discussing that because I have some paperwork relative to a meeting on this subject.
Perhaps Chief can give you the details of that.
That's what we say. I think they had a meeting in the
Yeah,
conference.
we did. Chief, take it away if you want to, or I will.
Okay. The deal is, the cities have asked us to compromise instead of just starting it this year. We told them last year that we were going to do this. They want to compromise, and maybe we pay half and they pay half this year, or pay to a phase approach. And I think we only talked about a total of $68,000.
came in our meeting, we discussed a phased approach over a minimum of 3 years. I believe that's correct, Judge. Is that right? We didn't talk about it starting it next year.
Maximum?
No, I'm sorry, Brian.
Well, we considered phasing it in over 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
And in looking at the numbers, I think I sent a note to Ms. Wilson that I would propose that in the first year, we charge the city of Troop $6,000, we charge the city of Bullard $4,750, charge ARP $2,750, and we charge Winona $1,750. That is approximately 25%.
And with some clarification on when you say we charge, because we don't do the charging.
Well, right.
I agree.
Commissioner, we did share in the meeting that this had been, there had been fair warning given on this. We did discuss that with all the cities, that the prior court had given them fair warning on this, and they were still upset. It wasn't so much about the whether or not they had warning or not, it was more the amounts that had wound up coming out at the end of this was what was the problem.
Well, you know, the county has to pay their amount, and nobody's helping us.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
always criticize for what we do, but yet when we ask somebody else to step up to the plate and take on their portion of the burden, nobody wants to do it. They want the county to pay their bills for them. Now, I can see maybe taking a year approach and phasing it, we're giving them a whole year's warning, but Judge, I don't think I can go for 4 years or 3 years.
Well, let me ask this, because I know that both Noonday and Bullard had conversations with me, and then the judge and me with Bullard. They didn't understand what it was for and how the charges are arrived at, what the charges are based on. So, are they? I mean, y'all had a meeting last week, so do they understand what they're being billed for?
I think Bill Morales and Chief Gorman explained that to them. I think there's an understanding that didn't seem to change things. They recalculated. 911 recalculated based on, and first they did it based on call volume, and then they went back and did it based on population.
Right.
Which changed it considerably for some.
Yeah, first we did it on call. Some of these small cities like Troop is a bigger place, and so but ARC can go out and work traffic on 64 and use dispatcher just as much as Troop did. So that's one reason we went on population instead of call. And because that's making Troop pay a lot more, but ARC was using radio and the dispatcher just as much as Bullard was Troop. So that's what we went on population.
And so it's fair, they're asking the county to pick up the other 75% of their portion of the 911 bill.
But this is for, and I want to make sure everybody understands, this is not for 911, it's for dispatch.
Dispatch.
This is for the dispatch, that's correct. Dispatch functions, right? Not for the 911 part.
Dispatch.
So Judge, you're saying that they still don't have a level of comfort with what they're being billed?
No, I'm not suggesting that. They, well, they don't like it.
Okay.
They don't like
Right.
it.
Just to put it point blank, they don't like
They don't
it.
like it. And I can understand smaller municipalities, these are big numbers for the smaller municipalities, so I can appreciate their concern. You know, one thing that we discussed was the fact that, especially I know we mentioned how the city of Troop police assist the sheriff's department many times on calls out in the county. Just in terms of an interlocal agreement that for providing that service, it seems that it would be the right thing to do for us to assist them in this area if we could. And I know that probably happens in those other areas as well. So.
Well, and I got the distinct impression that they were way back when, Commissioner Hampton, I got the impression from that point till now, they had, I just don't think they had their arms around the impact of this